Okay, so here we go. Have a highlighter ready. See, do you mind turning off the front lights for me, please and thank you? $16. I will give it a little subheading. This is used dealer. Okay. Used dealer, that's the first one I'm going to do. So you agree on a price of $12,999. And it's a used car from a local dealership. Okay, used dealer, got it. You add a remote starter, right? The remote starter is $499.99, and the dealer offers you $3,500 for your old car as a trade-in. How much is paid in total, including taxes? This is a trade. Write it down. It doesn't always have to say trade-in. It sometimes does it in different ways. Now, this is the formula. Just for your notes, I'm going to write this out. I don't require this on a test. But it does say sticker minus trade, and that gets taxed 12%. And I'm going to shorten how I write this, okay? Safety times 1.05. Parts and labor times 1.12. Plus a lien, you just tack on. If there's a lien search, you just tack that onto your total. There's no taxing. That's the formula. You know you have to use this one, so you have to just fill in correctly. P&L, parts and labor, right? Safety. There we go. Let's figure out the sticker first. Sticker, that would be the $12,999 plus the $499 remote starter. I hope you can read that all right. And this is my sticker here. 3. I would always encourage you to do that on the side. Okay, so here we go. Use dealer. Sticker is this. So we go $13,498.99. And we're going to subtract the trade-in, which is $3,500, because that's what my formula calls for. If there's a trade-in, I must subtract first. Okay. Times 1.12. What about all of this stuff here? Do we have safety mentioned? No. Do we have parts and labor? Debatable. Because some of you are saying, well, isn't that remote starter? Isn't that parts, Mr. Dixon? Yep. It is. But, Lolo, any spot. Listen carefully to this part. Regardless of whether you add the parts like the remote starter here, look at where my finger and my pencil is, or if you had placed the $499 in there, what would you have taxed at regardless? 12%, correct? So regardless of how you did it, your final answer would have still been correct. Okay? So you decide how you want to tackle it, as long as you make sure it gets taxed. So I'm just going to leave it. Technically, I don't have that, and I do not have a lien search. So really, I'm just down to this piece right here. So I still have this number on my calculator. I go minus 3,500. So it's 9998.99 times 1.12. I still have that on my calculator. And so that ends up being 11,198.87, correct? the 6 gets bumped by the 8. So that's 7. That's it. Okay, this is after tax. You already included, as soon as you go 1.12, you know for sure their taxes have been added. Okay. So you have to show some work. Next, example 2. Joel finds a Jeep Wrangler for $24,900 owned by a private seller as is. So this seller is saying, I'm going to sell it to you exactly the way it is. I'm not going to do anything to fix it or whatever. So you know, right, this price, it is the way it is. You got to fix it yourself. The book value, so let's highlight that part, the $24,900. And we know it's a used car because it goes to private seller. Okay, so this is used private. That's the territory you're in. Okay. Use private, okay? I'm going to use a different color for this part. When it's a private sale, there must be a book value mentioned. The book value of this vehicle is $32,000. Where does the book value come from, guys? Who has that information? MPI, right? Autopack. Why do you think there's a book value? Why would Autopack do that? And this is the reason why, okay? You could technically, let's say this is your friend selling you the car. It's like, I'm gonna sell it to you for $100. Here you go. On the bill of sale, it says $100, but on the behind it, under the table, you still give your buddy $3,000 because that's really what the car should be worth, right? You're only gonna pay taxes on $100. Autopack doesn't want that, right? They don't want people underselling on purpose so that you get away with paying less taxes. So the book value is to make sure that if you go too low, you're still going to pay taxes on a decent amount, all right? The province wants to like get their revenue that way. That's why there's a book value. So you can't just do whatever you want and get away with paying no taxes. And it wouldn't be fair, right? Because if I don't know the person, they might not go for it. I have to pay like all of the taxes, couple $100, maybe $1,000, and somebody else just gets away with paying like $5, right? So it's kind of like to even the playing field. So now you know, maybe you were wondering why is there a book value? That's why, and it only applies to private sales, okay? Joel pays $65 for safety, and there's a $30 lien search as well, okay? Remember lien? It's basically a virtual chain on your car until you pay it back in full. A lien is only there if a loan has been made. If there's no loan, if you buy everything cash, right? If the car is paid off, there's no lien there, okay? But you search it just to make sure it's not there. Total cost of purchasing the vehicle after tax. So you go to your study sheet and you're like, well, it's used and it's private. The formula Mr. Dirksen gave me was this: purchase, the purchase price, plus, this is the tricky part here, this one right here, purchase slash book, times, what does it say? 0.07, make sure you get that right, plus safety times 1.05, plus parts and labor times 1.12, plus lien search. No taxes on lien search. So you can tell all the applicable taxes are being applied as we go through this formula. So here we go. Use private. The purchase price is $24,900 plus. Which one is greater between these two? Between the book and the actual price? It's the book. The book is the greatest. So AutoPack is going to say, nice try. We're still going to tax you on the $32,000 times 0.07 plus. What's the safety here? It's 65 bucks. I'm going to multiply that by 1.05 plus any parts and labor? No, so I'm going to cross that out. It's not there. Okay. Lien, 30 bucks, right? So I'm just going to tack that 30 on like that. So as you can tell, if you're careful, this cleans up pretty nice. Okay. So I'm gonna now clean up all the brackets. So 24,900 plus, I'm going to figure this out. It's 2,240 plus 65 times 1.05. It's 68.25 plus the 30, which doesn't get taxed. So here we go. I already have this number on my calculator, so I'm just going to go plus 30 plus 2240 plus 24,900. There we go. 27,238, 25. Oops, not 28, 25. Circle that. That's my final answer. Some students go back and they reread, because I always tell you, read and make sure you're answering the question. And they see this on an exam. After tax, oh shoot, I don't want to forget that, times 1.12. So they do all of this work, and then they go times 1.12 right here. You're double taxing yourself, okay? You've already done all the taxing necessary. So this is already after tax. Okay? This number is what we're after. And you have to read carefully, because the province, they try to make sure you, like every once in a while, they make sure you read and you understand what's happening. So there was one year where it was similar to this, set up like this, but then the question said, how much did Joel pay in taxes? Like taxes only, if you want to rewrite this. Okay? So not everything, but just the tax portion. So here's how you do this. Watch carefully. I go back up to this long formula here, and watch this. The only three things that get taxed would be this portion, and this portion. Right? The first and the last thing do not have any taxes attached to them. So I do this. Purchase / book times 0.07. I'll put that in brackets like that. Plus safety times, what am I going to multiply this by if I just want the tax portion? 1.05 or 0.05? 0.05. That's all I want here. Put that in brackets because you're going to do that first. Plus parts and labor. It was 1.12 here. What will it be down here? 0.12. That's correct. So some students ask me, should I add this to my study sheet? I would say, sure. Why not? It doesn't hurt, but I just want you to understand the formulas, like how I came up with this. So I'm going to say this. Which one is the greater of these two? I've already determined it's the book value. Safety is 65 bucks. And you can tell that some of this, you're going to be able to use mental math on this, right? So I cross parts and labor because we don't have that here. This we have already done up here, so I'm just going to go borrow that number. I'm just going to grab it from up here, 2240. Keeping me on my toes here. I feel like some kind of drill. Safety, so it's, you can tell 65, and then 68.25, there's $3.25, right? That were tacked on, but if you're not sure, that's $3.25 right there. So the good news is when students, well, there were two scenarios. A lot of students went right ahead and did the whole thing. They missed the taxes only part. But you still got 2 out of 3 marks for this if you missed it. But really they wanted this. Okay. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't happen very often. I'm not here to tell you like they're always going to trick you, but sometimes every once in a while a question has a component to it where you really need to think about what's happening. Okay. Okay, let's keep going. As you're copying this still, some of you are, just go to page, I think it's 18. Page 18, question, example 4. I want you to try that one. Yeah, just one. I'm just going to make one note on, for example 4. There's a bunch of parts and labor here embedded in this question. I'm just going to give you a hint or a tip, right? I always do parts and labor somewhere on the side. Like I figure out, like if I were to buy all these parts and all the labor, I figure that out on the side, and then I bring it into the long formula that I gave you. I plug it in where parts and labor is supposed to go. Okay? So read carefully. No big deal if you get it wrong, but this is where you try it and see what you come up with. Okay, here we go. Example 4. Let's see how you did. Let's see, maybe you catch your mistake. Maybe you just watch and you're like, yeah, I got it. Okay? So read carefully. Remember, after today, it could be used or new. Okay? Everything in between. So it's a used car, private. This is how much you agreed to pay for it. There's a diagnostic. What's a diagnostic? It's like a check on your car. It needs some engine work. Labor cost is $50 for 3.5 hours. So $50 per hour, and this is how long it took to fix it. 4 new shocks at $82 each. There's a safety for $60. A lien search for $20. The book value, I'm going to give it a different color because it may or may not make it into your calculations. It really depends on the scenario, but you still have to consider it. How much is paid for the car in total after taxes? So I will do a parts and labor section here, and I will just simply go $90. And then there's the 650, right? I'm going to add. There's a $50 per hour for 3.5. So I'll go 3.5 times 50 to figure that out. That's 175. You need 4 shocks. You know what shocks are, right? I hope. Your car has shocks, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and they kind of absorb the hit when you hit the potholes that we're so known for in this city. They absorb that, so they need to be replaced every once in a while. Okay, so this would be considered my parts and labor. So I'll just give it a total. So adding up that would give me $843. I feel like there's a mistake, right? This right here, correct? Thank you. See why I like these calculators? It really shows you there. There, 1243. This is before taxes, so I kind of tend to just somewhere on the side just say, hey, that I'm bulking up all my parts and labor. I'm putting it all in one spot. This number is very important to me. Okay, that number is important to me. You ready now? So this is used what? Private, correct? So the purchase price is $16,500. Which one is greater? This one is, right? So that actually goes in here. Say what? What's the 14 there for? Well, just to make sure you're checking, right? AutoPack will say, hey, you sold it for more than what our book value is? Thank you very much. Like, we'll tax you on that, right? So they always tax you on the highest. Safety is 60. Parts and labor, oh, this is going to be tight. 1243 times 1.12. How am I going to do this? I'm just going to go like this. Plus 20. So that's kind of stealing a little bit of space there. But that's how your work should be set up. And now you're cleaning it up. You're not going to enter it all in one shot because it's just, you know, a mistake is just lingering there. So that's 1155 plus 60 times 1.05, 63. And this part right here, settle down, Mr. Dirksen, you're too fast. Slow me down. You can do that on YouTube later. Probably sound funny too. Okay, so you've got that. I still have this number, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it there. Add the 20 to it. Add the 63. Add the 1155. And add the 16,500. 19,130 and 16 cents. So you have to be careful. This is after tax. So we'll just leave it there for now. Okay, every section unfortunately has a little bit of like conceptual understanding, so there's not necessarily math involved. But trust me, they add up, guys. These add up. Like 5 or more marks on an exam, I would say probably more like 8 to 10 are just that are going to come right out of something like this. So go to page 19. And you're just going to have to copy a few things down here. I'm going to try to make it short and sweet so you don't have to write too much. So this is used car, right, from a dealer. And then you're going to buy a used car privately down here. So this is going to be dealer, and down there is going to be private. What are some of the advantages of buying from a dealer? There's lower potential for hidden damage, right? A dealer has a reputation to uphold. Okay. So they're going to be upfront with you. They're not going to try to trick you, because if you drive off the lot, then all of a sudden it's like, what? My bumper just fell off or something. You're not going to come back. You're not going to refer other people, and that's their business, right? Like people referring and saying, come back. So there's lower potential for hidden damage. You can trade in your vehicle. That's another good, right? Most dealers accept your old car as a trade-in. Can't say that about private, right? Not very few private sales will actually take your old car. Dealers have a lot of options, right? They might part it out. They might take your old one, just take it apart and use those parts to fix other cars, or you name it. They can resell it. They can take it to the scrap yard. They make more money. They get paid more for old scrap cars than you would. So they have a lot of options there. Less paperwork. They take care of most legal documents. Extended warranty. A dealer offers warranty for a fee. So even though it's already used and even the original warranty has already expired, right, from a brand new, they can still say, hey, we're going to offer you for another 3 years. You just have to pay up. And it's a couple $1,000s. But if your engine goes, if anything big goes, you're covered. You don't have that when it's private. And if you're not mechanically inclined, let me tell you, anything that goes with your car these days, you're looking at a couple hundred, if not thousands of dollars, right? What are some of the disadvantages, cons? Disadvantages. You pay high taxes, right? You always pay 12%, right? PST and GST, no matter what, you pay both. There's less room to negotiate. A dealer has a bottom line, okay? Since they need to profit, For them to stay in business, they have to buy cheap, sell higher, right? That's literally what they do. They buy a car and they sell it for more. If you buy from a private owner, and I had my car for like 7 years, yeah, sure, I paid for it at some point, but sometimes you just want to get some money out of that car, right? You don't necessarily have like, if I don't make this much, like I'll lose. Of course you will have lost, right? That's over time, but they want to make sure they get some profit back. Will cost more overall. I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. Let's go back to the private. Like, what are some good things about private? You pay less tax. So sometimes it will say, the province will say, state and explain. So if you say you pay less tax, you only pay PST, which is 7%. So you save there. There's more room to negotiate. A private seller does not have a bottom line. I should say necessarily. It's not. Just leave it like that. Otherwise, I'm going to mess everything up for you. Does not have a bottom line. And then some bad things about buying privately. Hidden damage, right? A private seller may not disclose all or previous damages. Sorry. Previous damages. It's more hassle on your part. Okay. You may need to pay for the safety and legal documents. I'm just going to call it legal docs. Okay. So here are a few pointers for you to use in the event. So this is not talking about new versus used. This is just talking about the difference between private and a dealer. Okay. How do you know? You know the best way to find out if a car had damage, if it has been rear-ended? Go under the car in the back, at the back of the car, if you can, safely, and look, because that's one of the hardest parts for an auto body shop to bring it back to its original state. So you will see like ripples, like underneath, like any metal part, you'll see like it's rippled, like corrugated, almost like cardboard when you smush it, like you will just see remnants of that. Another good way of finding out whether or not a car has been in a car crash is, remember the VIN number? We talked about the VIN number of a car. Technically from factory, every single part on the car should have a sticker on it with the VIN number of that car. So if you open one of the driver's side door and you look at the VIN number and it doesn't match the one on the dashboard, what does that mean? That door has been taken off of a different car and replaced. So now you know, you can say, liar, your car had side, they may not know, they may not be aware of it, but you can actually find out, there's ways to find out whether or not the car has been in a collision, okay? Because if it hasn't been reported, even if you do Carfax, you won't find out about it. If it hasn't been reported, if it hasn't been reported through AutoPack, okay? All right. What are we at time-wise? I'm going to say for today, we've got 25 minutes. That's actually a decent amount of time. I will do one more with you together, but first give you the chance to I will go over this and then you just have work time. Let's do it that way. Go to page 17, example 3. I'll just do a quick, this is actually, I believe, straight from the provincial exam, an old provincial exam. And sometimes they go A, B, C. Not always, but in this case they did. Okay? You're with me, right? I know it's afternoon. You're probably thinking of everything but math right now. There's a private owner selling for $9,500. In order to pass the COI, safety, certificate of inspection, same thing, it needs 2 headlights, which cost $60 each. That goes together, right? 4 new brakes at $150 each. It needs a new fuel pump. On page 17, the labor to do the repairs, right, takes 2 hours at $65 per hour. A safety check is $40. And there it is. If it's private, they have to give you the book value. The book value of the car is $10,000. Calculate the following. I'm going to admit I'm a little lazy. The shop rate, $65 an hour, it's like years ago. I just went to Canadian Tire on Monday, and it's $125 an hour right now. But if I change this number, I have to change my key, right? So just be ready, like this number could be anything. But the steps do not change whatsoever, okay? And even the safety is probably more like $80 now. There's a safety check. I'll show you that later. There's actually a paper that goes over there's so many check boxes the mechanic has to check off before you can say this passes, okay? Next, the total cost of parts and labor before tax, okay? Do not include tax. So let's do that. Parts and labor. I'll do it a little differently here. 2 headlights that cost $60 each. So I go 2 times 60. Okay. Plus 4 brakes at $150 each. So I go 4 times 150. a new fuel pump for 190, and it takes 2 hours. 2 hours at $65 an hour, so that would be my labor. So if I calculate this thing, I will actually come up with the parts and labor. Okay, 2 times 60, 120, plus 4 times 150, that's 600, plus the 190 stays, 2 times 65, that's 130. And yes, I think you might be like, well, where's the formula for this, Mr. Dirksen? This is just parts and labor, right? Like it's just implied. You just have to figure out the total before taxes. So I don't have formulas for everything. So if you add it all up, you get 1,040. Make sure your dollar sign is there. And you can actually leave it like that. You don't have to have the 2 zeros after. Make sure you write this down, okay? The total cost to purchase the car after tax. Now we want the total including taxes. So it's used private. We agreed to pay $9,500 for it. Which one is higher, book or purchase price? Book is, right? So we put the 10,000 in here. And we multiply it by 0.07 because the formula says so. Plus the safety, $40 times 1.05. Parts and labor, I do know what that is. That's 1,040 times 1.12. Is there a lien search? There's no lien search, so forget about it. Don't make one up, okay? 9,500 plus, mental math here, 10,000. What's 7% of 10,000? 700. 40 times 1.05. That's $42 then you would pay. And the parts and labor, I'm going to multiply by 1.12. That's 1164.8. And now you just add it all up. You can do it. That's after tax. Included, taxes included. Okay, total taxes paid. You remember this one? How do you do taxes? You go up to what you just did. And wherever there were, like this bracket has tax, this one and this one. And these two here, if you look up carefully, you got to get rid of the 1 here and the 1 there. You just have to put a 0 in there. So I'll go 10,000 times 0.07 plus 40 times 0.05 plus 1,040 times 0.12. Okay, so that's the biggest change here. Maybe if you want to highlight. Okay, it turned into 0. So this is 700 plus. You can do this on your calculator, but I know it's $2, right? I can see it here. And this one, I'm going to need some help there. I'm just going to look at my answer key here. 124.8. If you calculate that, that's what you should get. Adding is this all up, you get 826 and 80 cents. So if you're wondering how much taxes am I going to have to save up for, in this case, it's 826. Before I give you time to work, who collects the taxes? Where would you be paying that? Do you give it to the person selling you the car? Don't do it. They'll take off with it and you'll never see them again. You pay this at AutoPack. Like when you go to register and say and insure your car, they're gonna look up like how much did you pay for it? Our book value is this. Okay, they'll do the math, and then they'll say this is how much you owe us. This is the PST you need to pay us, right? So don't be giving that to someone other than AutoPack. They take care of it. Okay, so ready for this? You go to page 20. To 22. I think you should finish at least page 20 before you go home today. I think you're capable of that. Do as much as possible, and